Hi everyone. Sorry I didn't do one yesterday. Um, Getting the next weeks of packets done was took over. So here's your picture. This is something I found online. Boycott apartheid. I'm not even. If I recall correctly, that does take place. Um, the picture was in South Africa. I'm not. I'm not sure. So I'm going to cover through page 465. Let's go to the text. We start with Rachel, who just refers to herself as Rachel Axelroot, um, complaining. It's this weird dichotomy with Rachel and will be forever, um, kind of simultaneously bragging about her comforts and complaining about the uh, lack of happiness, basically, where she talks about um, Axelroot's failings as a mate, which is um, unbelievably unsurprising, right? And she talks about the good life she has, and that she's basically in a Western society, and she would like to make a play for her friend's husband because he's a first attaché, and make her. It'll certainly lift her socioeconomically. His little Frenchy wife Robine will never hack it, so it's pretty nakedly um, aggressive there. Now we have Leah's new name because she and Anatole are married. How about that? And it starts with, you see how quickly time is passing. We're already in 1965, and on it's the anniversary of Ruth May's death, as well as Lumumba's assassination. So she kills a snake. And she talks about the economic um, oppression, basically, of continuing to live in the Congo. And she talks about Brother Fowles. The father is still carrying on with his tormented Jesus' Bangala church. This was the Fowles' other awful news. Father had walked or hitchhiked all the way over to the Kikongo mission in an agitated state, bellowing that his guts were on fire with venom. He claimed he'd swallowed a live snake, so he's really probably extremely ill. Definitely physically, if not mentally. And kind of goes into what's happened to the government. So just to be clear, this was also remember school. Remember how I showed you that Anthony Bourdain video, where he talked about Patrice Lumumba and how Western powers sort of conspired to assassinate Lumumba, and Bourdain said, and in his place they put in this miserable bastard. Let me find that picture for you. This guy, Mobutu Sese Seko, who was um, this sounds really loopy of me, but I promise it's not. The United States has been involved in setting up dictators in a lot of countries. And the Cold War philosophy behind that was, well, if they're dictators who are loyal to the U.S., then we're not, you know, then they won't be willing to be allied with the Soviet Union. I don't think I told you that growing up, the Cold War was like the whole planet was, are they with us or are they with them? What, is this really ridiculously simplistic way of looking at things. That's what I knew as a kid. Um, and if they took this man, Joseph Mobutu, who renamed himself Mobutu Sese Seko, um, if the Western powers acting on behalf of Western corporations, primarily American and Belgian corporations, um, involved in mining and who set up mines in the Congo, um, for diamonds, gold, cobalt, or who established rubber plantations. If these if Western governments working on behalf of Western corporations helped someone to power and um, not only helped him financially, but also either directly showed or made it easy for this new leader to personally benefit. Um, like, hey, Mr. Mobutu, we want you to be the leader of the Congo. And if you agree to letting us continue our mining operations, we will give you lots and lots of money. Um, so he's sort of this bribed official who then continued in his kind of disgustingly long reign as dictator to personally benefit from the natural resources of the land and keep the population as poor as possible. But this was also pretty much done by Western governments. This was why Lumumba was seen as such a threat. Lumumba wasn't interested in um, playing that way. I sound like a tinfoil hat. I'm sorry, I sound like a tinfoil hat. Anyway, then we we go to Ada, and the weirdest thing, I am losing my slant. This young neurologist helps her, and by in his opinion, an injury to the brain occurring as early as mine should have no lasting effects on physical mobility. He insists there should have been complete compensation in the undamaged part of my cerebral cortex, and that my dragging right side is merely holding on to a habit it learned in infancy. I scoffed at him, of course. I was unprepared to accept that my whole sense of Ada was founded on a misunderstanding between my body and my brain, and this has happened. It's really weird. Then we also get a little perspective on Leah from Ada's point of view. I always find that especially interesting, especially as adults, because they live so far away, um, that Ada and, no, I'm sorry, Leah and Anatole also get university degrees in America. And they bring do they have a son yet? I think they do. Um, Ada's in medical school. It is, yes, she has her first son. Sorry, spoiler. Um, and Ada has this moment of confrontation with her mother about the night of the ants. Um, why she chose me that day at the Quenge River. This is, where am I? I'm on page 116 of the PDF. I am on page 444 of the novel. Moving along. Leah is back in Kinshasa, which it used to be called Leopoldville, and is now, the country is now renamed Zaire. I remember when it was called Zaire, because it was called Zaire through, I think, the early 90s, um, which was when Mobutu fell, shortly before he died. And yes, this is a very famous event, the Rumble in the Jungle. Should I have a picture of it? No. When he had a Ali Foreman fight in the Congo. Um, and we sort of have a picture of what life is like for Leah, raising a family, Anatole being arrested as a political prisoner, living with an aunt of Anatole, and I believe she has 2 sons now. The description of Leah's life makes it really difficult for me to reconcile with why she does not go to America. Why does she doesn't? She and Anatole don't stay in it. It's just really improbable. I get everything that Leah says, and I still kind of think, yeah, well, but you wouldn't be starving or in prison, perhaps, if you were in America and had the support of, had like the more material support from Ada and Mother. Pay no attention to my emails. And then we have the last Rachel chapter, where we've jumped ahead to 1978. And now Rachel has established herself as the owner of a hotel in Brazzaville, which is in the country now known as the Republic of the Congo. No, Central African Republic. Now I gotta look it up. It is just over the river from Kinshasa. So after all this time, this is now what, 16 years since, don't mind my dog, I think there's a delivery. Since they've left Kilanga, now she's kind of back. It's in the Republic of the Congo, Brazzaville. And see, Kinshasa's right here. So Rachel did in fact marry the French attaché and get appointed to Brazzaville, and she did get a Dior gown, and learned an important truth, which is that where is it? I'm looking for where she said that if you run off with a guy who's willing to leave his wife, there's a reason, like he's willing to leave you